The Heat won their third straight game, blowing out the shorthanded Denver Nuggets at home with some strong performances from several players. Nikola Jovic added 22 points in West. Is he finally playing to his potential?
If he is, that changes a lot for the Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang, become an everydayer. That means subscribing, tuning in every day, Monday through Friday, and signing up for the Everydayer Club with the link in the show notes. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We have a jam-packed show for you today. We've got credit cookies in the oven. We've got questions on the text line. David, we are recording this on Monday night after the Heat's big win over the Denver Nuggets. Nationally, though, the big story from this game is obviously going to be Nikola Jokic's injury. He goes down at the end of the first half. Spencer Jones, his Nuggets teammate, steps on him, steps on his left foot. When he steps on his left foot, it hyperextends Jokic's left knee. He goes down in a heap. Clearly, he limps off the court, but he's clearly in pain, clearly struggling. He's ruled out for the rest of the game. Sam Amick over at The Athletic is already reporting that he's going to go undergo testing tomorrow morning. So we do wish the best for Nikola Jokic, who is the best player in the world. And if he goes down, so do the Nuggets' title hopes. And there's just a lot of things that go along with that. So again, nationally, that is the big story. But at the same time, for the Heat's purposes, this game was tied at 63 at the time of this injury and going into into halftime. And I do think it's fair to wonder if the Heat only won this game because Jokic got hurt and 3 other Nuggets starters were out. David, what do you think about this win? And do you think it counts as a statement for the Heat?
I can't make it a statement game. I just think that for that to be the case, you'd have to play a Nuggets team at close to full strength. Missing 3 starters going into the game and then losing as good a player as there is in the league in Nikola Jokic at the half. I think it's hard to look at this Heat team and say, okay, I can consider them one of the better teams in the league. I'm not taking anything away from this Heat victory, and I think they would be the first to admit that. Having said all that, the reality is a win is a win. You notch them against whatever team you're facing. You can't control who's out there for the opponent. It doesn't really matter. You go and beat them any way you can. And as you and I were discussing even prior to the game, or during the game, the process was still a good one. They had an explosive first quarter. They were fantastic. It looked like they might even be able to do this even with Nikola Jokic on the floor. But in the second quarter, it was a completely different story with Jokic leading an incredible comeback when the team was down 15. And Miami really didn't seem to have any answer. They go into the half tied, as you said. So who knows what the outcome would have been had Jokic remained in the game. But Miami still played a really solid game. Their approach was good. The way they were scoring, the blend that they had of different players finding ways to contribute. And look, you can even point to the fact, they're missing a starter in Tyler Hero, their top scorer, et cetera. So I think injuries happen and you can't really look too deeply into them. But at the same time, I'm not going to overreact to a good game against a team that was clearly shorthanded and make it as any kind of pronouncement about what this team is. But it was a fantastic win for a team that was looking to get some kind of rhythm going as they face a tough stretch up ahead. And I think these, 3 games, they've clearly shown that they've been able to establish some of the kind of offensive rhythm that they've been missing before that.
Good win, not a statement, to your point, right? And that's okay, right? You win against Atlanta, you win against Indiana. We went into this game saying, look, you gotta show us something against this Denver Nuggets team. This is a Heat team that had struggled to play good teams this season. The Denver Nuggets are still a very good team, even coming into this game down 3 starters. No Cam Johnson, no Aaron Gordon, no Christian Brown. But because they had Jokic still in the middle. And Jamal Murray's been having the best regular season of his career. It's not even close. Probably going to be an all-star in the Western Conference. But yeah, you also, I think, hit it on the head when you said, who knows? Who knows what happens in the second half, right? Miami was up 15 in the first quarter, something like that, 14, 15 points, whatever it was. And the Nuggets come roaring back because Jokic takes over in the second quarter. I'll also point this out, though. A big reason why the Nuggets were able to roll back into that game was because the Heat were also 1 for 9 from three-point range in the second quarter. They shot really well in this game with Jokic on the floor. With Jokic off the floor, it didn't really matter except for that second quarter. I still think they probably shoot pretty well considering how the ball was moving and all these things. And as great as Jokic is, he's not doing anything defensively to limit you on that end. The ball was moving. They were doing a lot of good things on that end. So, look, in terms of the process, I thought the tempo was there. All the things that we wanted to see were there. And I shared this with our folks on the text line going into the game. I thought there was 3 keys for the Heat to win this game. The number one thing for me was to limit Jamal Murray, because you just know Jokic is going to get his. Can you limit Jamal Murray? They did that. 20 points on 21 shots. They did that. Can you get out in transition against a Nuggets team that does not turn the ball over a lot? They did that. They outscored the Nuggets 18-9 on fast break points in this game. And most importantly, can you just make some shots? Because the Nuggets lead the league in effective field goal percentage, and the Heat made almost 54% of their shots in this game. They did the 3 things that they needed to do to win this game with Jokic or without Jokic, and I thought they still got to their game when Jokic was on the floor. Do they win this game if Jokic plays the full second half? Who knows? He's so incredible that you can't rule out the idea that they could have just won this game with Jokic alone. Did you see what he did on Christmas? He's that kind of guy. But they still played well. They still got to their game. And when you zoom out, the fact that the Heat are getting back to their game, they're playing with tempo, and they're doing the things that made them so dangerous in the beginning of the season, that to me, for the Heat purposes, is the biggest takeaway to me for this game, even bigger than just the win in of by itself.
Yeah, I think their style of play was fantastic. Like they really had a clear rhythm going, and just the way that they were sharing the ball, their aggression throughout the just the whole night, I think, was really solid. Yeah, they were a little off in that second quarter, but that notwithstanding, there were 3 quarters of really good basketball from Miami and able to play to their strengths. They didn't seem very phased by Denver, and I think they just held their own in a really solid way, and really wound up taking over the game when it mattered the most. I think that was key. Like it to the second half, even without Jokic, and I know he's as good a player, a singular force in the NBA as there ever has been. And having said that, we've seen teams come back in the past and say, you know what? Without our top guy, we've all got to find a way to collectively stand up. In the broadcast, they even pointed out to the fact that Jamal Murray should have carried a bigger load on offense. He should have done more. And he's capable of having those explosive outings, especially without Jokic there. And Miami did a good job of limiting him and still being able to put their foot down and to keep Denver from kind of even making it close at that point. They built an early lead in the third quarter. They kept building it throughout the second half, and they did what they were supposed to. So a really solid overall win for Miami.
And in terms of the other supporting cast guys being out for Denver, you look at who stepped into their place. They played well. Spencer Jones, 16 points, including 3 straight made threes in the third quarter to kind of keep Denver hanging around. He was great. Peyton Watson had 11 points as a starter. Tim Hardaway Jr. had 16 points. Bruce Brown had 15 points off the bench. Bruce Brown's a good player. He doesn't score 15 points per game. That's not really what he does. But he had 15 points off the bench. So they got contributions from up and down the roster. And the last thing I'll point out here, Jokic was a -1 in the game. The Heat still won the minutes in that Jokic played, the almost 20 minutes that he played in this game by 1 point, but they won. And considering that Jokic is like the plus minus god, he leads the league and has all these records for plus minus. That's a huge win for the Miami Heat. I also thought that their defense on Jokic was pretty good, despite the fact that Jokic was 21 points on 9 of 14 shooting in 19 minutes with 8 assists and 5 rebounds. Just a crazy stat line for Jokic while he was in there. But I thought their defense was really interesting. They started Bam on him. They started Kel'el Ware in this game with Bam. Bam got the assignment. Kel'el Ware was helping off of Spencer Jones, so they did that. But they were sending like these wild, random double teams from all these different angles. I thought it was a really interesting strategy from Spo.
Yeah, as a playmaker, he's exceptional, obviously, leading the league in assists, and you know what he's capable of. And yeah, I think they were trying to make things a little bit uncomfortable. Look, that 2-man game between him and Murray was certainly clicking in that second quarter when they took off there. And, you know what he's capable of. But Miami at least tried to make things a little bit more challenging for him. And I thought it was a good approach. They were willing to do things differently than what they had in the past to try and challenge him. And that's all you can hope for, really. Like, would it have worked in the second half? Again, it's too big a question, and there's no way of knowing for sure. But you like that Miami was able to try different things and still stick to their game plan. They didn't seem all that phased. As I said it before. And I just think it was you know what? I know the focus you mentioned. The bigger story here, because he is who he is always going to be Nikola Jokic and his impact on the league. But on the micro level, at least for the people listening and watching this show, it's a great win for Miami because they were really, really effective in what they wanted to do. And that's the big takeaway here. Aside from the Jokic story, Miami played a great game and got some really great contributions from a number of players. So they might have pulled out the victory there, even without Jokic. And I think that's something that a Heat fan can certainly hang their hat on.
3 straight wins for the Miami Heat. They're getting back to their game that made them so dangerous in the beginning of the season. That is the biggest takeaway. Credit Cookies is next. Stick around.
Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. During basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building, especially when a team is winning like they did tonight. The energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. And that's where Game Time comes in. The Game Time app gives fans the advantage right back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Look, the Miami Heat having a couple great games this weekend. They celebrated a kids' weekend. It's a great celebrating Bernie's birthday. Wouldn't you want to be at Kaseya Center for all those moments? I think you would, and that's where Game Time can really help you find the tickets you're looking for at the price that you want to pay. They've got great features like zone deals to help unlock great seats at an even better value. If you've never been to the Kaseya Center, never really had the opportunity, well, you can see exactly what the view of the court is going to be like. There's so many great things about Game Time that make the process easy and affordable. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA. Get $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time app today and get in on the action. We'll be right back.
Thanks for making Locked On Heat your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Heat with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or for $50 a year. Go to lockedonheat.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. David, it's another Heat win, which means it's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. It's time for credit cookies. David, you've got 10 cookies to give out. Where do you want to start?
Oh, so many different options. And let me tell you, this was a really tough one because we had so many contributions from guys all up and down the board. But I want to start off by talking about Norm Powell. I've settled on Norm because I think his offense was just so vital throughout the game. I made the point yesterday over the weekend. I think his points were great. You always depend on that scoring. You need it, obviously. But the moments where he scored those baskets against those lesser teams, perhaps, not necessarily as impactful. Today, I think it was the inverse of that, where his shots were crucial. Like, he kept the team going. There were a couple of shots maybe a little ill-advised, but overall, 9 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 8 from three-point range, 4 of 4 from the line, 25 total points. He was sensational in his offense, really just carrying the team, attacking, being aggressive, putting up the shots, helping to establish that lead and to keep it going. And I think his minutes were just fantastic. He was a +7 on the floor, and he was really, really solid tonight. So he gets 2 credit cookies on the evening.
Didn't have to play in the fourth quarter at all. That was nice. He had 10 points, 2 points, and 13 points. So came out strong in that first quarter. We've talked about Norm Powell in first quarters all season long, setting the tone, giving that Heat offense a jolt right from the jump. And that's what he did. 10 points for him in the first quarter on his way to his total there. So, how many cookies did he get?
2. He gets 2 credit cookies. Here's a little thing I'm going to tell you now. Everybody on my list gets 2 credit cookies, so you don't even have to do the math.
That means there's 5 guys who gets cookies.
Wow, you did it. That's amazing. Number 2, Kel'el Ware. What a great game. I think he was really, really, really good. Obviously, the defensive matchup against Jokic or even later on against
Valanciunas.
Valanciunas, I think he did a pretty solid job. It's always going to be a challenge, but he was impactful, aggressive. 3 of 6 from 3-point range. Those shots were huge. He was able to space the floor to help Miami in their 3 points, outage. They had 48% of their threes tonight. 3 of 6 from Kel'el. That was great. It was 19 points, 8 of 12 for the floor, 9 rebounds. He looked aggressive, and there was a play there that he didn't even wind up finishing on, where he collected an offensive rebound in traffic and tried to slam it and got fouled on the play. But you could hear the sideline cheering, because those are the moments that we were talking about, that we didn't know that Kel'el had that in him. But he's been so much more aggressive of late, and he seems to be getting better and better and more comfortable with every passing game now that he's back in the starting lineup. And I thought that was a huge moment for him, where he's just saying, you know what? Give me the damn ball. Get out of my way. I'm 7 feet tall. You can't stop me. And to see those moments from him, the potential was always there. That aggression was not. And now we're seeing it kind of tie together. It's been phenomenal. And so he gets 2 credit cookies as well.
Where in that dunker spot is such a weapon, where you can just throw it up to him and he can just slam it home. I love from him the offensive rebounds, to your point. The putbacks, the second chance opportunities, they have been so huge for the Heat's offense. This has not been historically a team that gets a lot of second chance points, but Kel'el Ware changes all of that. Like I said, that is versatility. Having a guy who could do something different than the rest of the guys on your roster. And what I love about him, he had 5 offensive rebounds in this game, 5 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds. You usually don't see that, where a guy has more offensive rebounds than defensive rebounds, on his way to the 9 total rebounds in this game. And you look at this stretch of games that the Heat have put together, and you and I talked about this, even in that loss in Boston, where we looked at that game and we said, yeah, they lost the game. They played a lot better than they had in those losses to Toronto and Orlando and Sacramento before that. He has, starting at that point, the loss in Boston, the loss in New York, he has 5 offensive rebounds, 6, 5, 4, 2 against Indiana, and then 5 more tonight. He's really starting to rack up those offensive rebounds and make an impact there. It means you don't have to call plays for him. It means that he's finding ways to make impacts. I know this is what that coaching staff, to your point, David, this is what they're looking for. I think that's huge. And then maybe my other favorite stretch for him was in that third quarter when Valanciunas gets a start in front of in Jokic's spot with Jokic hurt. He just said, all right, cool. Valanciunas is going to play drop. And he just stepped into 2 3-pointers in that third quarter and punished him for doing that.
Yes.
That's some next level stuff. That's good stuff.
Absolutely. Up next, the quiet starter, and yet he was great tonight. I've got 2 for Andrew Wiggins as well, finishing the night with a team high plus 28, 19 points on the night, 6 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3-point range. But look at the stat line: 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 3 steals, 3 blocks. Talk about a guy doing everything, and probably not going to get the recognition that he deserves for doing it, but he was phenomenal. You talked about the fact that they changed the starting lineup, and you and I were going back and forth about, I was a little surprised not to see Pelle Larsson in there without, with the impact that he's been having late. And yet Wiggins stepped up. I thought he wasn't going to, because he picks up those 2 early fouls, and you go, oh, okay, this is typically a game where Wiggs will all of a sudden be a little less aggressive. Maybe he won't try as much on defense because he doesn't want to get in foul trouble. We've seen that from him in the past. Not the case. Not the case. Completely changed the story tonight. He said, you know what? I don't care about those 2 fouls. Spo left him in the game, and Wiggs responded, and that was phenomenal. So he's not going to get the credit he deserves, but he definitely gets the cookies he deserves on this show.
He's literally getting the credit he deserves. These are credit cookies, David. This is what it's all about. This is what we do here. We give the people who deserve the credit that they deserve. It's a great point you made about the aggressiveness, even after those 2 fouls in the first 3 minutes. You mentioned the 3 steals that he had in this game. All 3 of those steals happened in the first quarter. It did not faze him. He set the tone defensively for this team in a very meaningful way. And I think my favorite play of the game for Wiggs came in that first quarter off of a steal. And he beats Nikola Jokic and another Nuggets defender down the floor. And instead of laying it up, slams it home with the left hand. Jumps off the wrong foot, gets the dunk with the left hand. And I was like, you're watching it and you're like, that's got to be a layup. It's going to be like a high off the glass type of layup. Right.
Right.
And he's like, no, did you forget they used to call me Maple Jordan, and slammed it home. And I just like, that's that level of aggression. That's that winning kind of stuff, right? Really, you can miss those layups, those kinds of off foot layups. If you just put the ball in the basket, that's a really good way to make sure that you don't miss it. Who's next?
I got 2 for Jaime Jaquez as well, 20 points. But here's the stat line that really stands out to me: 11 assists. Talk about comfortable in his role as the sort of kind of point guard, whatever you want to call it.
Very much today, yeah.
Yeah. He was. I remember talking about after his rookie year, talking about the 2 areas where he needed to improve: 3-point shooting and being a playmaker. And he's evolved so much. Last year, clearly he was not at 100% health. He just wasn't the player that he was supposed to be, or that a lot of people expect him to be. He's been so much better this year, and he continues to develop as a playmaker. In particular, tonight was a perfect example of that. He was great, just really solid, really key moments there where he just attacked and was aggressive. Really good off-ball movement too. There were a couple of times where he slipped behind on the baseline there. Dwayne Wade-esque, dare I say it, Jimmy Butler-esque. He was just so heady, so aware, and with enough playmakers on his team aside from him to be able to find him into the spots. I think those were huge moments for him, and it was just a great performance.
It's a career high 11 assists for Jaime too. I love that for him in this spot. The 20 points, as you mentioned, were huge. My favorite play was one of the assists, though. It was Jovic hitting Jaime. Denver went zone a couple of different spots in this game. They started the game in zone, then they went back to zone later in the game. And at that point, Jovic finds Jaime in the middle, like at that free throw line. And immediately Valanciunas, who's on the baseline covering Ware, takes a step and a half up to guard Jaime, who's in that spot that kind of busts the zone, right? So you immediately kind of rush out to get to him and contest a shot. Jaime loves that spot just like Bam does. So you figure, yeah, that's on the scouting report. Let's go close out on him. And then Jaime just immediately, without even looking, dare I say, almost a Jokic-like pass, right? Like kind of eyes on the back of his head, lobs it up to Kel'el Ware, who gets the easy dunk. So that was my favorite Jaime play of the game. Just a tremendous all-around game for him. I'm gonna guess that your next 2 cookies are gonna go to Nikola Jovic, because we haven't mentioned him yet. But we do have a question about him on the other side. So that'll wrap up our credit cookies segment, sort of. We're going to get to the text line after this. And one listener asks, real Nico or fake Nico?
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Fridays have always felt a little different during basketball season. And FanDuel is making them even better, because every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. You can just open the FanDuel app during Happy Hour, and it always brings something new, whether it's boosts or bonuses, maybe even a few surprises. And it's easy to check the weekly special right before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect. Right before the games, right before the weekend starts. And it adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. We'll be right back.
Let's go to the text line. You can get text from us and submit questions for the post-game shows with the link in the show notes, or text 786-998-7029. Cody writes in, do you feel like the Heat win even with Jokic playing? The shot making was tremendous, and I think they still would have eked out a win. David, I don't know if they would have won the game, to our point earlier, but I do think that the shot making was really good in this game, and the offense was working well. And like I said in the first segment, I don't think Jokic's presence defensively changes a lot of what Miami's trying to do offensively, even if he's 7 feet tall and does provide some sort of rim deterrent there. I did think that they were a little bit more aggressive getting to the basket in that third quarter in particular than they had been in other parts of the game. But overall, I thought they were getting to their offensive game pretty much all night.
I mean, this is the perfect distribution. 99 total field goal attempts, 54% on those, and 46 of those coming from three-point range. That was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they pepper in 19 of 23 free throws. That's as good a game as you're going to get offensively, which is why they wind up with 147 points. It was a phenomenal way to try and find different opportunities to score. And so, to the question, we've talked about it. It's impossible to know for certain. I feel like Miami's game plan was strong enough. Maybe the better question is, I think, would this have been as good a game as Miami has played against this Denver team, considering how well we've seen them go up against Denver in the past and just been absolutely beaten because Jokic is so good an individual player and controls so much of the tempo that he just totally takes whole teams out of what they're able to do. I think conversely tonight, Miami was really, really sticking to what they do well, and they played their game. They executed really, really well, giving them the best opportunity to find a way to win. So whether he was on the floor or not, I think they really did play their best game. We talked about this yesterday too. Was it a mush-dish win? Would we have been happy with a game where they might have lost if they had played as well? Tonight kind of tests that theory a little bit. Had Jokic been out there and Miami had kept it competitive, I might have felt a little bit more convinced that Miami is truly a better team than maybe their record reflects.
Was I right to say that Nico got the last 2 credit cookies?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So
that's the way the math works. So, yeah.
Malachi writes in, is Nico finally back to being the player that we hoped and prayed he could be? We also got a question from Eric, who writes in, real Nico or fake Nico? Why do you get your 2 credit cookies, though?
Do you see him out there? Like, he was so good. Like, I think part of it is building confidence over the last few games, working his way back into the rotation, and then seeing a mentor, a friend in Jokic out there on the floor. And that kind of emboldened him in a way that I don't think we've seen Nico ever be. Like, we know Nico is in his head a little bit, but there's also this kind of underlying ability to be very confident. You have to be in the NBA, maybe even a little prone to trash talking and things of this sort. But to do so against the best player in the game, because he's your countryman, because he's your friend, etc., that was really, really great. A fantastic possession there where he nails a 3-pointer and he's jogging back on defense and just going at Jokic, kind of talking to him back and forth. That's phenomenal stuff there. But just the overall confidence, letting it fly from 3-point range, 5 of 8 from behind the arc, plus 24 out in his minutes there, 22 total points. The question is such a tough one to answer because I think we kind of talked about it over the weekend as well. And to me, as I said then, I think we need to see this a little bit more consistently. I think it could be like the best 3-game stretch of his career, perhaps. I think that might be fair. And that's as good a place to start as any in terms of how we kind of address this question. But I still need to see it consistently. I don't want to see it get derailed by injury. I don't want to see him psych himself out. And the 3-point shot is there now, and it was there over the weekend. But can he continue to make impact plays even when that shot isn't falling, and he finds a way to still help the team win or succeed? Because I think tonight a lot of it was his offense, although I think he played pretty solidly defensively as well and finished with he had 4 rebounds, 5 assists, so he was able to contribute in other ways. So it was a great overall game, but I just need to see it more consistently. That's where I'm at when it comes to Nico. How do you feel about it?
I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. I will say this. It does kind of feel like the beginning of that Kel'el Ware leap, where we're kind of saying the same thing. We got to keep seeing it. And we just keep seeing it with Ware. There has not been a step back since we kind of were talking about this. And with Nico, I thought Eric Spoelstra did a really interesting thing in this game, starting Bam and Ware, yes, but then when those guys came out, giving Nico those minutes as the backup 5, despite the fact that Bam was back. Against Nikola Jokic, he was like, hey, we're going to keep doing this. And I thought that was a really interesting challenge by Spo and this coaching staff to Nico. It was, hey, just because Bam is back doesn't mean you're off the hook. You're still going to be a weapon for us as this backup 5. And I thought his defense on Jokic was actually pretty dang good. He contested him in a couple of shots a couple of times. And you mentioned the 3 that he hits in Jokic's face and then kind of trash talks, I'm assuming, in Serbian on the way back. Maybe it's the best 3-game stretch of his career. I thought that was the best 2-way series of his career, where he contests Jokic on one end and then hits the three in his face on the other end. That was everything while playing center, toe-to-toe with the best player in the world. That's as good as it gets. And with Jovic, it can't just be about the shot making, just like with Kel'el, it can't just be about double-doubles. It has to be more. And the thing I really like about this 3-game stretch with Jovic is the assists. 4 assists, 7 assists, and then 5 assists tonight. And to go to the question, real Nico or fake Nico, or Malachi writing in, is this the ceiling that we've been dreaming of with him? That's the stuff I look at. The shot, that's going to come and go, right? He's going to make threes. There's going to be games where he misses threes. Okay, whatever. If he's making an impact as a playmaker, getting out on the break, getting in transition, and then playing good defense and rebounding, and there was a couple of times where he had a little bit more of that lawn chair style defense where he kind of folds under the rim against other guys, and I want to clean some of that stuff up. But overall, I thought it was a tremendous game from him, and it's been a tremendous 3-game stretch for him. So real or fake? To your point, I guess we'll find out. But this is starting to feel like a little bit different, and hopefully it is. That'll do it for us today. Thank you for tuning into Locked On Heat. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Heat so you get all the latest episodes. Find us on Twitter and on Instagram at Locked On Heat. Did Locked On Heat make your Spotify Wrapped? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network account on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel and audio. Make sure you make it your second listen, Locked On NBA Game Night. Thanks for hanging out with us. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.